I have a puppy dog named Kiki. She can sit and lie down. Do you have any pets, and what is the best trick to teach a pet?
Well, I have two dogs. I got Bert first, who's a border terrier, who's about 8 years old. And then I got another doggy called Ernie, another border terrier, who's about 18 months old. And Bert and Ernie are characters on Sesame Street. Have you ever seen Sesame Street?
No.
No, you've heard of it though, yeah? You heard of it? It's like a
Never
Muppet.
heard of it.
You never heard of it? Well, there you go. This story's going nowhere. But the Bert and Ernie are quite loved characters on this sort of Muppet-style show called Sesame Street, and they don't do loads of tricks because obviously when I'm on Britain's Got Talent, I see loads of really talented animals. But basically, if you have a treat, they will get on their hind legs and do sort of little dances and things and roll over. It's amazing. Having worked with animals as well over the years and acted in various things with animals, is it's all about food. Basically, they'll do, like me, they will do anything for food. So if you're thinking of teaching your dog some tricks, then make sure you've got a few nice treats, because I bet she'll get the hang of it quickly.
I have to say,
yeah, Ernie will go on his hind legs for a treat and do a little sort of dance around, but that's about as far as it goes.
I do remember, of course, Bert and Ernie, David, from Sesame Street. And I don't know, I used to be able to do a little impression of Bert and Ernie.
Hey, Bert. Hey, Bert. They used to sort of that, I think. Hey, Ernie. Hey, Bert. I think that's how they spoke. Doesn't mean anything to Jasper. He's never seen it. But actually, Jasper, there's a very accurate impression. You got another question, Jasper?
Yes. When I'm at Helen House, I enjoy playing pool and jacuzzi. Have you visited Helen House? If not, would you like to visit?
I would like to come, yeah, of course. I've visited lots of children's hospitals and hospices over the years, and it's always a wonderful thing to see the amazing work going on there, meet all the personalities, all the amazing kids, all the families, and of course the amazing staff who look after everybody. So it's a bit of a weird time, isn't it? Because for quite a few months, no one's really been able to visit each other, and certainly not strangers, and certainly people in hospitals and hospices are I guess more vulnerable than others in terms of, they don't want to get the virus. So one day, yes, I would love to come when all this whole coronavirus thing is over. I would definitely like to come and visit. Yeah, for sure.
Jasper, that's amazing that actually David Walliams would come down and visit you, and actually it would all be because of you. You can tell all your friends at Helen Douglas House and all the staff that you asked the question and David said yes.
Kind of be bad if I said no, wouldn't it? No, no, not coming.
Yeah.
Now,
couldn't show me a very good light with it. No, I do like to go. It's great, and it's quite a privilege, when you're on TV or you write books and people like them, and then they, and you can spread a bit of happiness. That's quite it's a special thing, and so you should always respect it. And so if people, want to see you and it's going to make them happy, then you should go for it, definitely.
Jasper, did you ever know that David Walliams was such a nice bloke?
Yes.
Yeah,
oh, you did? Thank you. I thought you were going to say, well, yeah, I've seen him on TV. I always thought he was awful. But I like him now. Right.
On to your next question, because you've got quite a long list, Jasper, haven't you?
Yeah. My favourite book is Gangster Granny. How many hours a day do you write? How long does it take to complete a book?
Well, the thing is, when you start a book, you tend to take it quite leisurely. So you sort of write for a couple of hours and you walk the dog, then, have some tea and some biscuits and all this kind of thing. You think, oh, this is wonderful. And then it gets closer and closer to the time when the book has to be finished. And so what became a few hours a day then becomes 10 hours a day, and then it becomes 18 hours a day. And then by the time the book is, due for publication, it's sort of 2 in the morning and you're crying, typing over your computer. So I guess it's a bit like homework. Like the longer you leave it, the more stressful it gets. Yeah. But it takes me. I'm writing just before I spoke to you. Actually, I've been writing my new book. So I've got a book coming out in a couple of weeks called The World's Worst Parents, and I've written another book for Halloween, which is like a kind of picture book for younger kids. And then I'm writing a novel at the moment. So as soon as I finish one book, I've got another one to do. But yes, it takes a few months to write a book, normally, especially a book which is a story like a Gangster Granny type story. Things like The World's Worst Children take a bit less time because they're short stories, and so they're easier. But I'm glad you like Gangster Granny so much.
David, where do you get all your inspiration from? Because, you know, your ideas are absolutely remarkable.
I steal them from J.K. Rowling. Oh, well, some of them, you know, I think as a writer, you've got to keep your eyes and ears open because you never know when a good idea might come along. You know, you might be sitting on the bus and overhear a conversation. You think, oh, that's intriguing. I wonder if there's a story there. Or someone tells you about something that happened in their life and you think, that could be the basis of a story. And sometimes they just come out of your head like dreams. But the main thing is, I think if you're a writer, you're constantly looking for inspiration. And these things are around all of us all the time. So a writer doesn't really have a special well or anything of ideas that no one else has access to. It's just kind of just constantly keeping your eyes and ears open and thinking, could that be an idea? Could that be an idea? And making notes. So if you're thinking of writing these stories, Jasper, make notes, because you always have a good idea and you think, oh, that's such a good idea, I'll never forget that. And 5 minutes later, you generally have. So I constantly am listening, thinking, observing, and trying to sort of piece ideas together. Sometimes I have an idea that I think, well, that's got something going for it, but it's not enough yet. And then I'm often looking for more pieces of the puzzle in a way to kind of make it into a story. And I think the ideas are like seeds, and from these seeds you grow a tree, which is your book. So Gangster Granny came out of my granny telling me about her adventures in the Second World War when I was a kid. And I thought she was kind of boring, and we just used to play Scrabble and eat cabbage soup. And then I realized she'd had this really exciting life before I'd even been born. So so even though I was a kid at the time and I wasn't thinking about writing Gangster Granny, it was definitely that thinking back to those experiences that gave me the idea.
Mm. Do you ever put yourself in the stories? I mean, is there a character that perhaps you'd most like to be?
Well, they're all sort of based, I think, on parts of you. Even, you know, any characters you create in comedy sketches, they're all some part of you in some way. And the really fun characters to write are actually the baddies, because the baddies, they're the ones who make the story happen. So if you come across a really exciting baddie, like I have Bert in Rat Burger, who's this man who turns rats into burgers, as the title suggests. But he's quite a funny villain, I think, and it was really fun writing a character like that, and coming up with all the details that make him, you know, different to other characters. So so there's a little part of you. I mean, a tiny part of you, a bit like an actor playing a role, I guess. You know, like you have to understand the person in some way to be able to write about them. But they're all a little bit of me, some more than others. Dennis in The Boy in the Dress is probably the one who's closest to me.
Yeah, and if you're talking about baddies, a constant source of inspiration when you're sitting next to Simon Cowell. Anyway, who I hear is really a pussycat. Jasper, what's your next question?
Do you read to relax? What books have you enjoyed the most?
The books that I've read myself that I enjoy reading.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've got a 7-year-old son, so we read lots of books together, which I really enjoy. And I've been reading a lot of Roald Dahl books, which I really enjoyed. I also loved, as a kid, the Dr. Seuss books. Have you ever come across those, like The Cat in the Hat?
Yes, I've heard of them.
Yeah. Well, they're so mind-blowing, I find. Dr. Seuss, absolutely mind-blowing, because he did the words and the pictures, and both are so unique to him. You know, it feels like no one else would come up with these absurd stories in the way that he did. So I love his work. And we've also been reading Harry Potter, which I really love. And I like to have a look at, you know, everything that's out there as well. As a writer myself, I like to see all the other books that all these other brilliantly talented writers are doing, and think, oh, you know, I read something like Jacqueline Wilson. Have you read Tracy Beaker, or have you heard of Tracy Beaker? The Tracy Beaker books?
I've heard of Tracy Beaker, yeah.
Yeah, well, I just read something like that and I think, oh, I've really got to up my game because she's so talented. So I read a lot and have a good look at everything else that's going on, and think sometimes, oh, okay, what is it about that that's really appealed to people? But it's exciting when people around you are doing great work, because it just makes you try harder. You know, so you read a really amazing children's book, you think, oh, I better pull my finger out and do better, because, you know, this is my competition. I've got to try harder, which is a good thing, because you constantly want to try harder all the time.
Yeah.
What does your son think of your books, David?
Yeah, he likes them. We've been reading the new one, War's Worst Parents, and he's been chuckling away at the stories. So I don't sort of make him just read my books, because I think then that wouldn't be very fair on him, because there's lots of other good books out there. And actually, I prefer to read other people's books in a way, because I don't know, I just like to kind of get involved with other people's work and see what they do. And, you know, I kind of know my work inside out, so it's just more interesting to me. But he's getting into books, and he's laughing a lot. So it's a great thing as a parent, you know, to be able to read to your kid. And during lockdown, you know, I've had more time, because a lot of my work hasn't happened, and he's been at home more. So we've been able to do a lot more reading together than we normally would, which has been really lovely, because it's something that really brings you close together as a parent and child.
You've been reading a lot of David Walliams books during lockdown, Jasper?
Yeah.
Is the right answer. Right. Next question.
During lockdown, I've been doing schoolwork and playing Monopoly rather than video games. What have you been doing during lockdown?
Well, I've been writing a lot, because that's what I do normally, but I've had more time than usual, so I've got more done. So I've written a couple of books, The World's Worst Parents, which is out in a couple of weeks, and also a book for Halloween, and I've started writing my novel. So I've been doing that, and I've been working on some scripts. Beyond that, I've been calling my mum every day and making sure she's okay. And we got her to work. She's not very technological, but we got her to work her a FaceTime, which she'd not really used before. And so now we can look at each other when we talk. But it's weird calling someone every day when you haven't been doing anything and they haven't been doing anything either. It's just like, oh, what have you had for lunch? And it's not an awful lot to talk about, because there's nothing going on. Because normally I call my mum and say, oh, well, I've been here, I've done this, I've done that. And my mum will say, I've been here and I've seen these people and that person. But we haven't been doing anything. So we just ask each other what we had for breakfast and lunch and what we're having for our dinner.
Do you know, I missed seeing you at the Chelsea Flower Show this year, actually, in May, as we always do, because you always go with your mum, David.
Yes. I think, I'll be honest with you, I think she enjoys it more than I do. I'm not that into, I mean, I don't mind. I mean, I quite look at flowers, are perfectly pleasant, but my mum really enjoys it. And so yes, I take her. She's disappointed that it hasn't happened this year. And there's other things like, you know, Wimbledon and the proms and lots of things that I know give a lot of pleasure to people. It's sad, isn't it, that none of these things are going to happen this year. Absolutely.
Right, Jasper, next question.
Are you planning any swimming or cycle rides?
Good question.
Only ones for fun, not any charity ones, because the thing about doing the charity ones is it needs to be harder each time, you know, because I've swum the Channel and the Thames. I can't now just say, well, I'm going to swim a length of a swimming pool. People will be like, no, you need to swim the Atlantic. You need to swim to America. You need to swim around the world. We need to see you swim from the North Pole to the South Pole or something like that. And I just think, I can't do it. I'm not up to it now. I'm too old and I'm falling apart. So I think just for now, these things will just be for fun. And I won't be doing anything too epic. I'll leave that to younger, fitter people than me.
I think, Jasper, I'm just trying to work it out in my head, but I think you were 5 years old when David did the Thames. Was that 2011, David? I think it was, because I saw you in here in Oxfordshire.
2011, and I think the Thames was 2006.
Was it? Wow, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, goodness me. Yeah, as I say, I remember you drew a big crowd wherever you were, but you drew a big crowd in Goring, and I remember seeing you getting out.
Oh, it's lovely, Goring, yeah.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, but I remember seeing you getting out and thinking, he's very, very tall. I never realised you were so tall.
Yeah, pointlessly tall. And I've got long arms and long legs with quite big hands and feet, so I'm actually really I'm sort of well designed for swimming. I'm better in the water than on land. I'm really an amphibious creature.
You'd give Michael Phelps a run for his money then. He's got a very big wingspan.
I think, not sure I'd give him a run for his money. I probably swim about, so probably not even half as fast as he does, I imagine.
Right, Jasper. Oh, back to you now, because are you going to ask David about Britain's Got Talent?
Yes. My family and I watch Britain's Got Talent together. What is your favourite act?
My favourite act ever is probably Jack Carroll, who's a comedian. When he auditioned, he was 14. He's about 19 or 20 now. And he's got cerebral palsy, and he walks with a frame. And when he came onto the stage, he's got these little glasses and black hair. And he said, "I know what you're thinking. Harry Potter's had a really bad Quidditch accident." And everybody laughed. And there was an amazing thing that he turned, what must be quite a difficult thing to live with, having cerebral palsy, into something that he could celebrate, something that he could, use for his humour, because he had a unique way of looking at the world. He was just so talented. So I was completely blown away by him, and I thought he was brilliant. Yeah. So he's probably my favourite, and we became mates, as he's got older over the years. So he's great. And if you haven't seen his audition, it's on YouTube, and you should have a look, because he's a real character and a very, very skilled comedian.
That's actually one thing that, we were talking about missing things and not being able to do certain things that we look forward to, David. And, Britain's Got Talent, of course, is a massive, massive fixture in, our TV viewing. And, Amanda Holden sort of did suggest that there might be some way of bringing it back in, the next few months. I mean, can you expand on that at all? I mean, are we going to get Britain's Got Talent this year?
Yes, because we've only had the auditions, and we haven't had the live set, the semi-finals or the final. And it wouldn't be fair on all those people who auditioned if there's no semi-finals or finals. So they are planned for the autumn, and I guess that the producers will just see nearer the time what we can do. If we can do it with an audience, we'll do it with an audience. But if the rules are such that we can't, we'll have to do it without an audience. But there'll definitely be some more Britain's Got Talent this year, because we have to find out who wins the whole thing. So we'll see. We'll see. But I think it's weird, isn't it? Because it's quite an ever-changing situation, isn't it? So, week by week, things are relaxed, different rules are changed. So we may find ourselves in a position by the autumn where we might all be able to be in a room together. Who knows? But at the moment, it'd be difficult, which is why it was meant to happen in May, but they thought it was better to wait till the autumn and do it then.
Jasper, it's quite an afternoon that you've had, isn't it?
Yeah.
What would you like to say to David Walliams?
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Brilliant questions. I think you could be the next big talk show host. Is that something you might like to do?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. Well, then forget that. What would you like to? What is your main interest, Jasper?
Wheelchair football.
Okay. That's very cool. Football's cooler than anything, really, isn't it? It kind of beats everything else, doesn't it, really? Very good. Well, you did brilliantly, and it's not an easy thing to do, I think, when you're put on the spot. But you've done all your research. You had some really brilliant questions, and it's fantastic seeing you and speaking to you. And thanks for the invite. And as soon as things get easier, we'll be back in touch and see if we can make that work.
Jasper, that is so exciting, isn't it? That David is going to come to Helen Douglas House. I just think that I'm blown away by that. That's made my afternoon. You've done so well, Jasper. I should really be in fear of my job, quite frankly. And David, thank you so much for agreeing to this. It's been
my absolute pleasure. Anytime, guys. And thank you very much for such brilliant questions.